Let me tell you something that just came up. It's called NEWSGUARD. NEWSGUARD is a browser extension. What it is once you load the browser extension into your computer, then it's going to start rating the websites, news sites that you go into, and then it will be judged accordingly with a little rating flag. Like, for example, if you go to a site and it rated as fake news, and it shows up with a red tag on it. And if you're browsing even on Google and you're looking at various news, there'll be a red or green tag next to the news, depending on how it's rated based on what NEWSGUARD decides. So NEWSGUARD apparently was some company founded early last year in 2018, and they just released this browser extension just a few days ago. And this is a scary kind of thing, because now we're talking about a third party deciding what you should see. A third party now will tell you if the news you read is real or fake. This is not going to be based on independent research on your end. That's not going to be judged anymore. It's going to be based on whatever NEWSGUARD decides. Now, who exactly is a NEWSGUARD? So NEWSGUARD is going to be made up of journalists. And I was just thinking about this. So who are the actual journalists in NEWSGUARD? So basically, it's the same people who are the journalists in mainstream media. So I was wondering to myself, is NEWSGUARD intended to really protect us, or is it intended to protect the jobs of the people in the news media who have lost it because of alt news? That's one possibility. The other thing is, this is quite an effective manipulation tool, because here you are with one entity basically being the arbiter of what is fake news and what is not, and you're supposed to go trust this. Okay, so you say, well, you know, it's just one little company, and who really cares? It's not popular, and it's not going to influence anything. The problem is they're trying to really make a big presence in the internet. They're negotiating with Facebook and with all the different platforms to do the kind of censoring that they want to be done on those platforms, so they don't get labeled as being fake news sites, just for example like Facebook. And they're actually promoting this to be embedded into browsers. For example, apparently Microsoft agreed to pre-embed this extension on Microsoft Edge, the new version that's coming up. Of course, I don't know if you use Edge, but still, it's very, very concerning. Now, let me just explain to you some of the logic they use for grading or rating a news site. And let me just check my computer here so I can tell you some of the facts that the fact-checking rules that they use. And they make the point of saying there's 9 points that they check on, and that's the basis of the rating. And again, the people who are supposed to be doing the rating have to be actual journalists. So if you're just, somebody with an opinion, you don't count. Like somebody like me, I'm a nobody. So they're going to say, well, you don't count. Your opinion doesn't count because you don't work for a professional journalistic, a professional news organization. I don't work for CNN, MSM, all of MSM. So the two categories of the rules that they use for analyzing a website is based on credibility, and the second section is called transparency. So credibility, let me just read to you some of the elements used for credibility. The truth or not truth of a news article is going to be judged by the journalist. If the journalists decide that it's not true, then it must not be true according to the journalist who's going to do the review. Okay, so they decide that. And the credibility, again, is going to be based on professional journalists doing their job. So that's one of the ways they create the judgment for credibility. Thirdly, on your website, if you correct your errors, then that's going to be another category that they will use to judge your credibility. And then number 4, if you can handle the difference between stating that you're stating a news article versus an opinion. That's one of the things that they're saying. And then avoiding deceptive headlines. So that's the credibility part of the equation. The next part is called transparency. Now, some of this I don't have a problem with. For example, ownership, funding, clearly indicating what's advertising and what's not advertising, stating who created the article and conflicts of interest. Okay, let me just lay out some of my concerns about this, aside from the fact that I don't like any single entity to be judging what is going to be considered, correct news or not, or fake news, because I myself am a possible target of this. The stuff I talk about is not mainstream. I'm talking to you about things that big companies are doing to spy on you. The Googles, the Apples, the Facebooks, and it affects things like advertising. So I'm very, very concerned about who is doing the judging. Is there anyone in my peer group doing the judging, or it's based on who they hire, which it is. It's based on who they hire, and they're going to hire the people who are actual journalists who work for the New York Times, the LA Times, Washington Post, on and on and on. And whether you're on the left or on the right, clearly these groups have a bias. They have a bias in their opinion, and I'll show you that in a moment. And what about whistleblowers? Whistleblowers are not professional journalists. If you're a whistleblower and you're trying to make somebody aware of an issue on the internet now you can go out there and say anything. But what they're saying to you is, hey, let's make sure that you are not discovered on the internet, that you become invisible, that you don't show up anywhere, because you're going to have a red flag, and automated programs are going to look at the rating and say, we're not going to display, in fact, it's already showing in Google, we're not going to display news items with a little red flag on it. You're going to have a green flag in order to be displayed. Wow. Like, really, really worrisome thing here, because who elected you, people in NEWSGUARD? How do I know how do I know that what you decide conforms to my ideas and my perceptions? How do I know that? And I'm going to show you in a moment that what I'm saying is actually true. What about the issues that are very hard to prove or disprove, such as technical facts? And journalists are not going to have the knowledge to prove or disprove it, and they're going to have a vote. And are they going to actually go and investigate it for themselves? Or they just check a box and they get hired and paid by the hour to say, hey, review tons of sites and give your opinion, and we're going to pay you for every opinion you make. So this is an early comment. I may comment more on this as I know more, but I just did a quick check of websites to just see how this passes my smell test. Just a quick test, and you judge the first part of what I'm going to show you here, and you tell me how this looks to you, okay? So I just did a check, and I looked at sites like all the mainstream media, like CNN, NBC, Fox News, CNN, and then I looked at the websites for the LA Times, Washington Post, New York Times, Chicago Tribune, etc. Okay, so you look at those, and they all have a big giant green flag on it, so they're A-OK, okay? So then I checked InfoWars. Well, I mean, that I expect that's their target. So that's a target for all this, is to automatically block out sites like InfoWars. So yes, InfoWars fails on the credibility side completely, 100% fail on credibility, but a pass on the transparency side because they state their ownership and how they're funded and all that. So that's for InfoWars. Then I checked sites like this, and so you judge for yourself. The Guardian, that's all green. The Intercept, all green. Snopes.com, all green. Southern Poverty Law Center, all green. Okay, so I'm giving you a mix there. You pick whatever you want to pick from that, but those are all green according to this NEWSGUARD. Now I checked WikiLeaks. Well, Zuck, WikiLeaks fails. And then I looked at all the reasons for WikiLeaks and I said, what the Zuck? Okay, well, you know what? You may not like what shows up on WikiLeaks. You may not like what you see on there. But I have never seen anything that can be classified as non-credible on WikiLeaks. I haven't seen anything that you can classify as a lie. How do you then go and say this is not credible because it's a lie? Well, where's the lie here? They're all facts. I looked at all the facts they had about the CIA hack, the hack on the NSA. All of this show up on WikiLeaks, and no one from the NSA or the CIA claimed that this were not true. So what are you going to do now? You're going to say, hey, WikiLeaks has been graded as a red. It's not real. Therefore, it's fake news. You are not really being hacked and surveilled or tracked by the NSA and the CIA. So that's the way it's going to be interpreted now, because that's what it shows. That's what shows up based on NEWSGUARD. Now, this is a worse problem than you think, because actually what happens is a small group of journalists will decide now who gets to get paid on social media or on the internet for having news. And if you're on outside of this camp of journalists, you cannot monetize. You can get deplatformed. We already know about the deplatforming of some sites like InfoWars on iOS and Android. And then that got followed by demonetization, by blocking of payment methods by portals like PayPal, Stripe, and all the credit card companies. So now they're extending that. They're extending that now to saying, well, what about? Then we got another example. We got Gab, which is a free speech website, and it doesn't have an opinion in itself, and that is now being demonetized and deplatformed, so they can't have a mobile app and they can't have a way of monetizing. So now they're saying pay us in Bitcoin. So the question now is, these sites are saying we do not have a right or ability to judge for ourselves what's fake news and what's not. And therefore, because we're so dumb, let's have some other third party, controlled by whoever, will decide for you what you should see and what you should not see, and what you should consider to be real news or not. Again, at the moment, all it is giving you a Zucking rating, okay? But that's not the end of it. The rating is going to now be automated so that, like Google, they'll actually say, well, we'll use this to Google may do it. It's actually flagging it right now, but we'll search how it comes up on Google based on the NEWSGUARD rating flag. This is a very scary thing, because I don't like having a small group of people decide how the internet appears to us. In fact, that's one of my fears with mass surveillance, because once they profile you, they can actually control what you see. And now this can be combined. The information they have about the news site can then be combined with information they have about you, and then manipulate what you see. This is a very bothersome proposition, my friends. I just, why not have a group of journalists have a TV show, and then they can spend all their time zucking, criticizing different websites and criticizing all different media, and so we can hear from their mouths what their opinion is about WikiLeaks, and see two sides of the issue, and they can have a TV show on it. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. But to have some invisible group of people in the background that is not Zucking transparent, I don't know what their opinions are. They should have maybe a list of people and have their political leanings and their past commentary on their politics or whatever the topic happens to be as it relates to what I don't want them to consider or want them to consider. I would like that, and I would like that to be transparent as well, just like as transparent as the websites they're supposed to be rating. This Zucks, people. This Zucks. This is Zucked up. This is another way to Zuck you. So please be aware of this and share the Zucking video, because this is unacceptable. And don't Zucking load this extension on your computer. They're going to force you at some point. They're going to force you at some point. But fight.